All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the bi-weekly webinar here at Gentian, where we give you an idea of what you should be paying attention to in the markets and what's on our minds. So today, it's a midsummer broadcast, if you will. So everybody's on vacation. People are outside enjoying the weather, or at least the rain that we've gotten this week. But we've had a beautiful week here in Wisconsin for anybody who's been around. But this week, I just wanted to express gratitude for about a week and a half ago. We had the two events, and one was Gathering on the Greens with Beatles versus the Stones. It was great to see you all there. Also, the Sunday Rise and Shine. We had a couple of weather-shortened days, if you will, but we really enjoyed. I enjoyed seeing all your faces. Your adaptability was shown well. Your understanding of the weather and the elements was outstanding as well. So I just wanted to go big by beginning with celebrating you and spending time with you outside of work. With that, how about Ken?
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Great to be on the webinar with all of you today. And I echo that. Yeah, Gather on the Green was a great event. Also, Rise and Shine. Love our conversations that we have. Also grateful for a book we read maybe a couple of years ago now. It's called What Retirees Want, and it's connecting with old friends. And I have an old friend coming into town for a few days this coming weekend to spend some time with, and looking to connect with an old friend.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Ken. How about let's go with Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Grateful for safe travels. We drove across the country yet again, made it safely. A little bit of rain, a little bit of detours, but good conversation and good music along the way. So appreciate that.
That's awesome. How about Zach?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I'll echo the Gathering on the Green. Really enjoyed that time. It's funny, it feels more like a family reunion than it does a concert or a client event, if you will. And it was like, storm coming? There's music on? Didn't even realize it was talking so much, and enjoying just spending time with each of you. And then Sunday, really enjoyed watching our team's adaptability as well, and the adaptability of everyone there to still make it an amazing experience.
Outstanding. Well, let's continue. How about Lisa?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I think I'm going to reiterate everybody with the Gathering on the Green, especially because it was my birthday weekend that weekend. So I felt as though I was just really popular on my birthday, and having everybody there, like Zach said, it's always like having family. So I just felt as though I had a really big birthday party, and it was English. So there you go, to top it off. So it was really great.
You are really popular. So
thank you.
That's awesome. How about Michael B?
Thanks, Chris. Today, I'm really grateful for my mother. She celebrates her birthday this Saturday. Just sacrificed a ton for me. Couldn't really ask her for anything else. So just really grateful that, we're still communicating. She's a big part of my life, but just grateful for her today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. How about Ashley?
Thank you, Chris, and good morning. I am grateful for similar situation as Ken had mentioned. We have family coming into town from out of state that we get to visit and just enjoy the company of over a long weekend this next weekend. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So today, if you really look at this, I think I talked about this once before, but it's complications. I think life as we look at them for myself is about complications. You've recently seen that in the presidential race. There's been something everybody expected, and then something changed dramatically. If you run across complications in life, it's pretty much every day. You set a plan, you have an idea of what it is you'd like to do, and then something happens, right? So since it's most every single day, it's also in investments. You have an idea, you have a retirement, you have a X, Y, Z. When we're looking at it as well, there's complications that occur on a consistent basis. Tax law changes in markets, changes in interest rates. Somebody says or does something silly. We see an enduring plan for you that makes sense and that really, I'd say, shines through all this and is the base of all this. But what the world sees, what the news reports, what you get is all the complications that occur. So we're just celebrating complications here. Complications are also things when you're dissatisfied with something. So I'm not sure I like this, but great things tend to spring from that dissatisfaction. So if I really had two themes, it'd be complications and dissatisfaction. That's pretty much what you want to hear from your financial advisor, right? I'd like to hear some more complications, and I want to hear about dissatisfaction. But they're very, very important, if you will. Without dissatisfaction, Microsoft wouldn't have been born. Without dissatisfaction, Reed Hastings wouldn't have started Netflix. NVIDIA wouldn't exist, right? These are all better ideas they felt that would help humanity in some way more. And they all came from some sort of a discontent. Along the way, there's been many complications to all of them. You can ask them their stories. but greatness rises out of these complications as well. So I'll end on that. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of some of the thoughts going through our head. There's a lot going on right now this summer. Of course, when it comes to the political arena, almost everybody asks me, hey, what's going to happen in the election? And I tell you, I know exactly what's going to happen in this election. At some point, somebody will be elected president. So I know that's a bold prediction. I'm just going to say that that's what's going to happen. And from there, we're going to move on. And as historically, most one-year returns after presidential elections end up with a near double-digit return. So I'm not going to tell you which direction, but it's almost always up. So at any rate, I know those are bold predictions. I know I'd like to put myself out there. I don't like predictions other than I know these things will happen. There'll be some disagreement with whoever becomes president, and we'll move on. You know, interest rates are looking like the economy is very good and things may drop a little bit. We'll talk more about that. So we're seeing a lot of different things going on. We're also looking at like new car prices being fairly high, and people are surprised when they're trying to finance a car now that their kids are getting 8 and 9% interest rates when they're financing cars. So we're seeing a lot of these things happen as well. Recently in some of our, we're seeing a lot of introductions from you, and I want to thank you tremendously for introductions. If I put another headline here, introductions, and we are great because of each other, meaning that your introductions to us are keeping us as a practice growing, thriving, which is outstanding, and becoming one of those practices that you see on the different awards. So we together, that's you, clients, us, team, all together win those awards. And by the way, it's your hard work and introductions to us as well. So thanks for keeping us top of mind. But we're seeing more and more dissatisfaction with some of the other, let's call it maybe I'm going to call them billboard advisors, even in our city, where people have gone there and not experienced what they thought they'd experienced. And we're definitely reinforcing what it is we do on a consistent basis. People will come in from them and go, wait, they said they would do this, but you actually do this? You actually rebalance? You actually do Roth conversions? Right? You actually look at this? I mean, all the different things we talk about that we actually do for you, we're finding out is rare. So Peter and I also just got back from the top 100, I guess it'll be Chairman's Council retreat in New York about a week and a half ago. And it was for 2 days, and it was extremely intense. Brought some wonderful things back from there to share with you, both for yourselves, planning and the practice too. But I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on ourselves and what's been going on, some of the thoughts we've been seeing. But we've really been seeing an awful lot of what you count as normal being abnormal to most everyone else as a client. So I just wanted to report those things to you. And with that, why don't we go ahead? I'm going to choose. Let me see. Today, why don't we do Mike's Minute? How about Mike? What's going on?
Thanks, Chris. And, I'm going to extend my gratitude to the team, because that's really who allows us to do those things and excel above and beyond what others can maybe give. And that comes to your vision and what you've brought together. So happy to be a part of that, right? So I want to continue to be a part of it. So, but some of the fun stuff that's going on in the markets right now, I want to talk a little bit about individual company risk and sector rotation. So some people feel like the fear of missing out, this is a very real thing that people feel when you see a specific company or something run over a long period of time, whatever that could be, and you want to maybe look into some of those directions and some of those sort of ways of investing your money, and talk a little bit more about that now that it seems to be that some profited, but you didn't. That's not necessarily going to be the case in all stretch. And I want to talk about the risk that you take when you have an investment in an individual company, and that risk can sometimes turn into reward with a long-term holding. You got to take the ups and downs, but you never know what's going to happen. And a really good example is what just happened this last Friday with the data outage, really affecting certain companies and putting them in a position that their stock has suffered because of the fact of the service that they provided wasn't able to deliver, and is now actually costing profits for others out there. I'm happy to expand upon this a little bit further, or anybody on the team can really talk about this in that light, but it's just one of those examples of how when you put all your eggs in one basket, you never know what's going to happen. It was not foreseen that a data security company would release an update that would then stall a processor or anything like that would then create this problem overall for a lot of different companies out there. So by being diversified, you're able to kind of take those bumps in the road as they happen. And then sector rotation. Zach is going to talk a little bit more, as he does, about some of the different sectors of the market and how they've performed. But something that's really interesting is that in the trailing 1 month, and we're talking a very short-term time period. Now, short-term time periods are important for those who need money now. And a lot of times this volatility is welcomed for somebody longer term. But in the trailing 1 month, the best performing asset class by, over that which is small cap value. And it's up about 11% over the trailing 1 month. worst performing asset class, which is actually the best performing year to date, but worst performing over the trailing 1 month, large cap growth. So you see these changes, you see why we want to own all, because it smooths out the bumps in the ride over these different periods of time. Last one I want to touch on, when you look inside the S&P 500, and that's going to be 500 of the greatest companies in the world, what we use as a barometer for the stock market in general, the best performing asset class in the trailing 1 month, real estate. The worst performing, communications. It's fascinating when you look at how fast these things can change. Thanks, Chris. Mr. Doty, I believe you are muted.
I was just speaking in parentheses. So I just had a question, and Mike and I were talking about vacation just recently, and it was interesting because we talked about this. You know, I'm an avid fan, if you know, Mike is an avid fan of birds. He got the bird buddy, so we take a picture. But I asked Mike, "Hey, Mike, where do birds stay when they're on vacation?" Someplace cheap. At any rate, why don't we head over to Zach's Facts?
Thank you, Chris. Per usual, I'll go through kind of where we're at as far as the different indices out there, a few different highlights to look at, like Mike mentioned, highlight of real estate, also the benefits of rebalancing, and then kind of to be aware of our annual normal necessary drawdown as well. So we'll start with where the Dow Jones is at for the year, which is about 7% positive. The S&P 500 is about 16.5% positive on the year. The NASDAQ is right around 20. Those are both 1 or 2% off of 2 weeks ago when we last gave you the report. And then the biggest highlight that Mike touched on is the Russell 2000. So we watched that very closely for really over the last 12 months. But it's gained 10% in 2 weeks. And really almost all of that 10% came over a 1 week period. The international side is about 5.5%, and the emerging markets is 6% positive, all pretty flat over the last 2 weeks, with the biggest highlight being the big jump in small caps over a very short amount of time. As Mike mentioned, a global real estate strategy was one of the worst performers in 2023, but is actually up 12% in the last 3 months. So the benefits of rebalancing is that if we did a rebalance almost at any time last year, we would have bought more than likely small cap as a category, and also global real estate, which, as we just talked about, 2 of the best performers over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and even over the last month or 2. And then, as always, just be aware of our annual 14% on average drawdown since 1980. We haven't had that yet. At any point in time, that can happen. We're always going through internally what we call our lifeboat drills of, if we have our normal necessary correction of 15-20%, who's eligible for tax loss harvesting, conversions, other types of planning as well. So those are some things we're doing behind the scenes. And 2 kind of random facts that I thought were extremely interesting. Both Mike and Chris kind of talked about interest rates. The consumer price index, the CPI, fell month over month in June, a negative 0.1% for the first time in more than 4 years. So they kind of feel the Fed will cut rates by September. 87% chance of that. So we will see. They've been wrong almost every single meeting so far for the last year, but just interesting to observe. And then the last fact, just because we talk about technology and artificial intelligence quite a bit, during a few different studies, the Richmond Fed found that 37% of companies have used AI to automate tasks previously done by employees, and more than half expect to automate certain jobs in the next 12 months. And larger companies are expected to have the biggest shift, where over 77% plan to automate certain jobs. So just extremely interesting to see the evolution of the workplace as well. That, Chris, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Zach. Zach's about to run 100 miles, just so you know. I mean, he's just a big one coming up there. He'll never tell you that, but if anybody wants to run along with him for 100 miles, feel free to join him. I will be cheering him on from the warmth of my home. But I just wanted to say that's a huge accomplishment coming out. I've run 100 miles over the past 6 months total. So it's pretty cool coming up as well. Pretty cool coming. So why don't we go to Ashley's advocacy? Ashley, what do you have for us? Now, Ashley and I were talking just recently here too as well. And I asked her, hey, Ashley, what can cause dry skin after being in a swimming pool? I'm not sure. I said, a towel. Anyway, Ashley, why don't you bring us up on what we should pay attention to?
Thank you, Chris. I'm just going to continue off of all the wonderful things that were said in regards to gathering on the green. Our team is so grateful for all the wonderful conversations that were had during that time. And from those conversations, one of our team members learned from a client about something that I wanted to share to potentially save you money and just inform you of. So hopefully you can all see my screen here, but what we've learned is that there is a Medicare Advantage plan out there. It's through Aetna, and it is a Smart Fit plan. And what we did learn about this plan is that it covers reimbursement up to $1,200 a year that can be used towards golf lessons, golf course fees, fishing license, and even specifically pickleball fees that you can go to clubs and of course pay. This, of course, is meant to keep people active as well as very social in their everyday lives. So again, this is a new plan in 2024, excuse me. And it is something, of course, that you can talk to a Medicare expert about and just inquire and see if it could be something that you could take advantage of. I know that you do have to submit reimbursements through the plan that they have, and it can take a few days for reimbursement. But so far, so good, and nothing but good things heard about this plan. So again, new in 2024, please check out the Aetna Medicare Solutions Smart Fit plan if you're a very active person and, of course, want to keep up that lifestyle and get some money reimbursed to you. So again, make sure you talk to your Medicare expert and get out there and stay active. Back to you, Chris. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Ashley. I appreciate that. Why don't we go to Ken's corner? Ken, what's going on as well? No, Ken, you've been running quite a bit. Are you going to run with Zach this weekend?
I wish I could. I'm not going to be available with my friend in town, but yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
But I did offer. I was wondering when it was, and I said, hey, I'll run 10, 15 miles with you, and and put him in good spirits. But he's a dedicated individual. Zach, you'll do just fine. So
nice.
So I'll take a crack at a dad joke here. So with football season kind of approaching, people are day camps are starting, players are starting to show up, and also the EAA up in Oshkosh is going on right now. So what did the football player say to the flight attendant? Put me in, coach. So some might think John Fogerty, center field, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. But
they're less funny when you explain them, Ken.
Even better, isn't it? Yeah, even better.
But trust me, I've had to do it a lot.
So on the planning side, there's some really important stuff going on right now. And one of it is Roth conversions. We talk about it, we do them for you when they're appropriate for you, and it fits in the tax brackets, what we're trying to accomplish as a family together. One thing to keep an eye on is IRMA. That's the Medicare part of it all. And so sometimes we get excited about doing Roth conversions, and we create all this extra income that's going to be taxed at reasonable rates, and all of a sudden we're like, oh shoot, Medicare went from $174.70 a month. Now it's all of a sudden up to $244 or $349 a month or something like that. So we just have to be aware of that, because when we talk about monthly budgets and what we spend on healthcare and what you're expecting there, right? All of a sudden we go from paying maybe $300 or $400 a month for Medicare and supplements, now we're at $700, $800 a month. And sometimes that can catch us off guard and catch us by surprise. So we try to bring those up and be proactive with you on that piece, but just be aware of something called IRMA, because I've seen it a couple times in the last few weeks, and I wanted to bring it to your attention there. The tax landscape is about to change at the end of 2025. We talked about it extensively in pretty much every webinar so far. One of the pieces is estate taxes. Now, right now it's a $13.61 million exemption. And so somebody say, hey, that's quite a bit. And what's going to happen here is it's going to change. It's actually going to revert back to the 2017 levels, which is 5.49 million per person. Adjusted for inflation, some are expecting the estimate to be around 7 million. So if you put in, start kind of adding things up in your life, and you take a look at real estate, investments, and things of that nature, all of a sudden we might be getting pretty close to that. So estate taxes might become a conversation with those. And we'll be aware of that for your scenario, and we'll bring that up proactively with you guys to see if that's something we need to address and plan for. The annual gifting is $18,000 per year. So you can gift someone $18,000 per year per person. So just keep that in mind as well. that's been some of the conversation as well. Lastly, before I hand it back to Chris, and I will not say another dad joke because if I have to explain it, it means it's not that good. But this one is serious because what's happening right now, and Chris alluded to this with new cars, financing things, spending money. This is your hard-earned money. We know that. We keep that in the center of all the planning we do for you because this is yours. One of the jobs you hire us to do is make sure your money lasts as long as you do. And what we're seeing a little bit right now is the idea of, maybe taking a little extra out of the investments in your portfolio right now. Keep in mind, there is wiggle room in times with certain situations, circumstances, age all comes into play. What we're trying to accomplish, that comes into play. We tend to bring it back to the 4% rule. So keep that in mind right now. I know it's a tough conversation. I've had a few of them with you. I know that we have to put our financial planner cap on once in a while and really make sure that you're in a great spot, your spouse is in a great spot, or your significant other, whatever the case is, just to make sure that things are on track and we're really planning for the future for you to make sure that your viability, your lifestyle is sustainable for a long period of time. Back to you, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a good point. Very, very good point, Ken. How about Michael Birchbach? So I'm going to call it Michael's cycle. I don't know why I just felt like
Thanks.
Haven't truly
Thanks,
named it,
Chris.
just trying them out.
We're still workshopping a bit, but we'll find one. Today, I want to talk a little bit about estate planning and inheritance planning, just building off of some of the things that Ken just mentioned. But some clients we see can overlook their estate planning situation and think that their estate may be pretty simple and straightforward. But I was reading an article recently, and a lot of clients actually don't realize the amount of assets they'll actually leave behind. And a really important piece of this is the appreciation and the prices of real estate and homes. In an article that this estate planning attorney wrote, 80% of beneficiaries that inherit a home actually sell it. So if you combine the home proceeds, the investments, the cash, and the other assets, including your tangible property, that your beneficiary may have more cash in the bank or on hand than you had ever had, even before you had passed away. So this can cause some concern for clients, for those with younger beneficiaries or their children who necessarily aren't ready to inherit that amount of money. So it's a really important planning piece to really discuss either with us or an estate planning attorney. There's a lot of flexibility that you can create, provisions that you can put in a trust. But if leaving a legacy is important and doing it on your terms, we're happy to discuss with you or make an introduction to a professional that can help. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Appreciate you, Michael. So what we talked a little bit about recently too is we've talked a bit about interest rates maybe going down. And the question is, how does that affect me? Well, in that case, bond prices will rise a little bit. So we've had a category we've had for a while that could experience some price appreciation, not just interest rates. That'll also mean that fixed income rates in CDs and money markets will probably drop a little bit in their overall value. Now that is, like Mike said, if the experts are right that they start dropping this in September. Some of the reasons they mentioned jobs are coming in a little bit stronger than expected in the economy. You've talked about, core inflation was, I think, 2.6%. That's why they're not talking about it as well. It's quite a few different ideas too. Annuity payouts may increase as insurers can invest in higher rates if rates stay up higher, but they're also going to drop a little bit lower as well. So one of the things I also wanted to put a big caution sign out there for is these unbelievable offers about annuities that will give you an interest rate that's crazy high and it'll never drop. So it sounds like this. You can get all the market's return, but when the market's down, you'll have zero drop. So if you truly look into it, it's an untruism. We just had someone walk in recently, and actually several different cases. It's not any single isolated case with a significant equity indexed annuity that in a weak moment they purchased. It had a 10% commission. It was a 7-figure purchase, and it was a massive amount. To correct it, they tried to sell them another one with a higher rate. I mean, it was just one of those things like, you got to be kidding me. So interestingly, watch out for those. You're going to see more and more advertisements. I've seen more insurance companies trying to advertise it to me. It's just something you've got to be super, super careful for. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Usually the case is there's a lot more hidden aspects behind it. It's very liquid. This is what one of the clients found out. When the market goes up 20%, like last year, they got a 3 or 4% cap on the total return. So the market may go up a ton, but you made 4%. When the market does 0, you get 0. So they're looking at a return of like 2 to 3% over the next 5 or 10 years have they kept this vehicle. That's what they've realized, but that's not what they were promised. So just some of those things you got to be very, very careful with. If you find somebody who's talking about something too good to be true, feel free to reach out to one of us. We don't need to have that person invest with us. We just want to prepare them from making a massive error that they will regret. So that is something to watch out in this environment as well. We got about 2 minutes left here today on the broadcast, so I think I could just let you guys go. Oh, wait, or I could talk about something different. We talked about something just recently. We talked about what is it that you're really good at? We had this on our Monday morning meeting. Have you ever looked at what you're really, really good at? Now, what's interesting about this kind of topic is most people don't. And when you ask somebody, they'll tell you more likely what they're really not good at. You ever just looked at, you are really, really good at detail. You're really, really good at ideas. You're fantastic at traffic. There's all sorts of different ideas you guys can be great at, right? But what's interesting is a lot of times we don't celebrate those. We don't look at those. We don't use those in the groups we volunteer for, in our family, in others. What I'm going to try to say here is you're unique. When you look at this, a body consists of a lot of different parts. If the body was like humans, noses would want to be feet because they could walk. But feet they wouldn't feel like they're worth a whole lot because they can't see like the eyes. Geez, that mouth, that sure can't say an awful lot. But, the thing is, it can't really do anything without a brain. The brain, I'm really envious of the brain. Every other body part would be envious of another. But in fact, it takes all of them to do any of it. So when you're looking at a family, you're looking at a system, you're looking at your community, your unique role in this community, family, small family, even amongst yourself, you are extremely unique in using those gifts to create a greater, stronger community. Use exactly what you have. Don't be someone you're not. I think we spend a lot of time and energy trying to pretend we're somebody we're not because somebody else might think it's cool. So take a look at the hats you wear. Take a look at why you wear them. Are you wearing a bunch of clothes because everybody else thinks it's cool or because you really like them? I tend to find most of you as we get a little bit, as we have more years under our belt, tend to not be concerned as much with what others think, I should say. I can tell by how some of us dress. I mean, look at me. Sometimes I'll come in wearing stuff that doesn't even coordinate, and I think it does. But it's quite funny as you go through, we all begin to do that. But celebrating your uniqueness, what is it you're really good at? How do you contribute to your family? Your spouse and you are probably exactly opposites. And like I've said in the past, that is a massive accretive. That's a massive positive. You need 2 different people to run a great company. And you guys as a family are very similar. So as I look at this, celebrating the differences between you guys, celebrating the difference between you and your friends, something that we really should take a look at. Don't be envious if you're if you have certain qualities and somebody else has something else. You were gifted with what you have. So I guess this is maybe called Chris's counseling. But as I go through, I'm always on a path of trying to get better. So AGB, always getting better, is something, a path I've been on for over 40 years. Well, probably 36 years, 38 years, I made a decision for it. So I've really, really gone deep into this, and I'll share these sometimes on this broadcast. For those who aren't really concerned with that, you can mute this portion. But for those of you who are, I'd like to share the journey as we share it with ourselves here on Monday morning meetings and on the Wednesdays trying to get better for you days. And it makes a big difference in our lives. You've got some extremely unique people sitting around here, and also those who are not on the broadcast today. And they make this group and the service that you receive rich by exploring themselves and always looking to get better. So I just wanted to share that with you. I know I went a couple minutes over, but from time to time, I'll share some of the topics that we talk about in our Monday morning meeting, just in our community here as well. With that, I'd like to thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your trust in us. Thank you for your time and attention today. And most importantly, we want to thank you for just being our friends, being our clients, and sharing your lives with us. From the galactic headquarters, global headquarters, I guess country headquarters of Gentian Financial here in Mequon, Wisconsin, I want to thank you all for this week. And we look forward to seeing and talking to you on the broadcast in 2 weeks again. Have a great late summer.